Welcome back to part 2 of what has happened in Blacksburg since November. This video I am really excited about because it's all things spring break related. So this semester I was very fortunate enough to help lead a spring break trip. We had 2 trips this year. We ended up having one group go off to Gatlinburg, and then we have one group going to Memphis. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to lead the Memphis spring break trip with Jeff and Kevin, who are awesome, really great people I really enjoy hanging out with. And so I just knew it was going to be a great time. And then I heard all of the students that were going, and I was just the happiest camper. We really had a great crew of people. I was the only girl on the trip, but I didn't even care because the crew was so amazing. So just sit back, relax. This is gonna be awesome. I'm really excited. I have so many notes here for you guys. We're going day by day. What happened? What are some of the takeaways that I have? Y'all will get it all in this video. So let's just jump into it. So first of all, what was even the purpose of the spring break trip? So we ended up going to Memphis, Tennessee, and we ended up partnering up with an organization called SOS, or Service Over Self. And essentially Service Over Self, what their hope is to be able to proclaim the gospel to underserved communities through the use of home repair. And so in our case, and in most cases, that is helping with remodeling roofs. And so that was super exciting. I've never done that before. And so that was their goal. They have a really awesome staff team, very compassionate, very welcoming. And so day one, we just get to driving. So we know that we have to be on site around 4:30 or 5. So we hit the road at 6:30 in the morning, which was not my favorite thing. I'm not a morning person, but we hit the road, ended up doing the entire drive, and had to take a Buc-ee's stop. That was a no-brainer. So we took a Buc-ee's stop. We were able just to have some fun, listen to some tunes. One of the guys introduced us to a song called 100 Ways to Love a Cat, which if you've never heard that, you don't need to. It is literally 30 minutes long, and man, is that a song. But we ended up listening to it off and on throughout the trip, and in a weird way, that was sort of like a trauma song that we all bonded with because, like I said, 30 minutes on Ways to Love a Cat. So we ended up having some fun. We got on site, got to meet the crew, very sweet people, ended up having chapel, and then we concluded the night with some games of 9 Square. So that was day 1. Day 2. Okay, so day 2 was our first official day on site, although the weather was sort of forcing us to not really do very much. The weather was looking iffy literally all day, and so we weren't there for very long. But luckily we were able to say hi to the homeowner, introduce ourselves, and just kind of get introduced to the tools we would be using throughout the week. It started to pour around noonish, and we were absolutely drenched. So at that point, we were like, okay, we're not doing anything else with this roof today. We're going back to the site. So we were able to help SOS with just some maintenance things around, some cleaning around the facility. And so we were happy to be able to do that. But we were not going to let a little bit of rain, well, a lot of rain, stop us from having some fun after work. So we ended up going to Bass Pro Shop, which if you have not been to the Bass Pro Shop in Memphis, it is absolutely huge. That's not English, but it is huge. It is a big giant pyramid. Given that there were literally 8 guys on this trip, we were like, let's do it, let's go, let's check it off of the bucket list. And so we went to Bass Pro Shop. We're able to hang out, get some laughs, have a good time, grab a lot of sweet treats to take back to SOS. We ended up having chapel again and then playing some card games to end the night, and that was day 2. Day 3, this is where we're really able to start. So we had the main goal of just putting the underlayment on the roof so that way we could start shingling another day. That was very time consuming. So that was basically the entire day for us. So we started to get some cap nails, put that underlayment on, and then after a long day, most of our days lasted from about like 8 or 9 till about 3. And so we spent most of the day kind of rotating teams of who would help from the bottom in terms of like, or the grass below the roof to help with supplying whatever tools or anything that we needed. And then we would have the top crew, the roof crew, just helping with putting that underlayment down. So we did that. Afterwards, we went to this ice cream shop called Stella's. They had gluten-free cones, which was amazing. And then we had chapel, and that was day 3. Day 4, it poured the entire day. So we knew we were not going to the homeowner's house. That was off. That was not even an option. So we ended up partnering up with another organization that is called Send Relief. And that was a really big unexpected blessing in response to the weather being not the greatest. So Send Relief is an organization that partners up with churches both at a national level and an international level. And their hope is to be able to just strengthen the community, to be able to care for refugees. They have a hope of protecting families, helping with human trafficking. There are a wide array of hopes that they have. And it was really cool to be able to not only help them with miscellaneous tasks like organizing different things, but also just to get a tour of their facility overall. That was really, really beautiful. One of the things I enjoyed most at Send Relief in terms of organizing was we ended up helping out with they had this closet, which essentially it was based on a point system. So it was for the homeless. If you show up to Send Relief, you will get a certain amount of points. And I think 1 point would contribute to 1 shirt or 1 article of clothing. And so they really needed help with organizing all of that, getting it to be sectioned by size. And so we started working on that. Super, super fun. I personally really love organizing, but also the fact that I had 8 guys wondering what on earth each piece of clothing was hilarious to me. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the day. So we went to Send Relief, which was really amazing. And then we ended up having a day to do whatever we wanted. So basically how the trip worked was you would have from 7 till 4 or 3 or 4, you would work. And then typically you couldn't go off site of SOS because we would have chapel and we'd have supper and we would have, need to be in bed by 10:30. But on Wednesday, that was the exception. As soon as you were done working, we didn't have chapel or anything. So you had full reins to do whatever you wanted. So we ended up going to Incredible Pizza, which if you've not been to Incredible Pizza, it is basically this amazing place where you can do arcade games and go-karting and laser tag and bumper cars. And then you get unlimited pizza for 2 hours. And they ended up having gluten-free pizza too, which was amazing. I mean, what more could you ask for? So we ended up doing all of the things. Our favorite was definitely go-karts. Literally, we were just ramming into each other. It was so much fun. Technically, we weren't allowed to do that. Like, everything said no bumping allowed. But we did it the first time. We looked, we're like, is anybody going to get us in trouble? And then when they didn't, we were full speed ahead running into each other, which was honestly so much fun. So we ended up doing that. We then ended up going downtown. There was this burger place that supposedly had this grease that was 100 years old that they still use to cook their burgers in. Some of our guys were stoked for that, so we had to go take a visit. So we ended up going there and going downtown, seeing Beale Street. One surprising blessing in that, we were walking back to our cars. We ended up taking 2 cars over, and there was this man that stopped us, and he ended up needing a little bit of money. to help support his family. So we were able to do that, but also we ended up being able to pray for him and his family, and tell him a little bit about Jesus. His whole face lit up when we had mentioned Jesus, and that was a really unexpected moment that also was a huge blessing, because in chapel throughout that week, we had been mentioning how important it is to not just let an opportunity slip by. And so it felt like what we were talking about at chapel was becoming an opportunity we could utilize here and now in that moment. And so it was really sweet to be able to see our students' faces light up at the opportunity, the staff members' faces light up. It was a really great moment, and we were ultimately able to help that man out. So that was a really amazing thing to witness. So that was day 4, I think. That was Wednesday. Yes. Okay, so then Thursday. Thursday was the last day that we were on site working on the roof, and we really wanted to be able to get half of the roof finished. There's no way we were going to get any more than that, just given that the weather and the weeks, and just it wasn't happening. But we were really hoping that we could at least tackle that. And so we got to shingling. We were able to use some big old nail guns, which was a lot of fun. And we actually got it finished. Despite the setbacks, we were able to finish half of the roof. So you can see some of the pictures, some of the videos here. It was really great to be able to do that for the homeowner. And there was a whole other crew of people that were coming the following week that could work on the other side of the roof. And so we checked that off, and then we ended up going back, having our last day of chapel, ended up doing a thing called Say So, which I'll talk about a little bit further on into the video, and just concluding the night doing a podcast episode. So we have 2 guys, their names are Kevin and Evan, in our congregation, super awesome dudes. They have a podcast called That's Big, where they just share literally what's big, what's happening in Blacksburg, what's happening, in their pursuit of the Lord. They'll bring people in. So they ended up doing a specific special edition of That's Big with the SOS staff and with the people at NLCF. So if you want to check out their podcast, I've always loved being able to listen to it. I'll also put that link below. Say hello. I know that they would love to be able to see you guys there. And so we ended up concluding the night with a podcast episode. And then Friday hit. So this was the last day of the trip. We ended up driving from Memphis back to Blacksburg, and then that was the trip. And we really were blessed to be able to just kind of hang out one last day. Our crew got really close by the end, and so we ended up being a little bit sad to leave. But it was great that we were able to create, either strengthen those relationships or be able to create the relationships with folks that maybe we hadn't been able to interact with as much before spring break. So those were the days. I want to talk about some of the takeaways that I had from this trip. So takeaway number 1, I would say that there was this really big emphasis in my mind of the importance of community, that life in community is rich. We had such a great time here in Memphis. We literally had the biggest blast, and yet also we were able to really connect to one another in some things that might be a little bit more challenging. And over the course of the week, we were able to open up about, this is what's going on in my life, and these are the things that I might be struggling with or that I'm bumping into. And so living a life in community is both exhilarating and exciting, and you're able to laugh, but also you're able to cry with one another, and being able to just get to live life for the week with these guys was a really big blessing. And it really, in my mind, emphasized why community is so important. And so that was my first takeaway from the trip. Secondly, I would say that mission work takes so many different forms, and it can be helping to build a roof. It could be just being able to hang out with a friend, maybe going to grab coffee. We are having something called Big Events happen at Virginia Tech in the next, I think it's 2 weeks. And that's where we get to go and be downtown Christiansburg, Blacksburg area, and be able to help with yard work or organize people's kitchen cabinets for the people in the local community. And so I think a lot of times in our minds, mission work is this very confined thing. Like if you're not going door to door, you're not doing mission work. Or if you're not going internationally and, sharing the gospel in that way, then it's not mission work. And yet that is so not true. Mission work is everywhere. It's just whether or not we're taking the time to notice it. And so I think even for, the Great Commission, like God is literally calling us to share the good news. And yet sometimes I think we approach it more as a suggestion than an actual command. And that's just not how that should be. And so I think this trip was really important to me in just once again emphasizing, am I recognizing the people around me? Am I recognizing the lost? Am I offering them this good news? Because I don't want to keep this good news just to myself. This good news is for everyone. And so I just want to quickly read the Great Commission because I think that is really important as we're talking about this. And so this is Matthew 28, 19 through 20. It says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always till the end of the age." So this isn't just a you should, this is a you need to. And so this trip has been really just impactful for the urgency of we have this good news, why aren't we sharing it? And so being able to take a step back and looking both at Virginia Tech, at Blacksburg, just the circles, the places that I'm in, who is lost and how can I share this good news with them? And so that was a really big takeaway for me as well, exiting this trip. We ended up having a segment called Say So at the end of chapel on Thursday. And basically you were able to sit up and talk about what are you taking away from this trip? And being able to hear the students' remarks of, maybe even they weren't super excited to initially go on the trip, and yet they are gleaning from this, not only relationally and being closer to the guys in the group, but also spiritually. They're recognizing that we can do things back in Blacksburg that help advance the kingdom. And so let's do that. And just hearing their hearts in the segment of Say So, that was a really beautiful thing. And so you're able to have a great time on a trip, and also being able to see the impact of even just being on a roof and being able to help the homeowner have a fixed roof. Like we were seeing the impact that we were having as we were leaving. And that was, what more could you ask for? And so, yeah, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. This trip has had just an amazing impact on me and how I'm, looking forward for the next few weeks or the next, couple of months, the end of the semester. And so thank y'all so much for listening. Thank you for being on this team. Literally all of this would not be possible without your support. And so I feel really blessed to be in this position, to be able to live life with the staff team, with these students. God is really, really good. He's been really, really faithful. And I'm just happy that I get to witness that. So thank you so much for being here and listening. Until next time. Bye, guys.